Hi there, this is David at TED-IELTS, and today I'm going to show you how to describe people in English. This video will be packed with lots of useful vocabulary, and I'm going to break it down into nouns and adjectives so that you can learn these words more effectively. Right, let's jump into our lesson. We'll start with nouns, and firstly that will be the parts of a person's body. We can see a diagram here with some common body parts. However, if you're going to describe another person, you probably won't need much of this, so let's move on to the head and face. Here we can see a diagram that labels the parts of the human head. We have the facial features, eyes, ears, nose, and mouth. We also have the hair as well. We can modify a lot of these parts of the body by using adjectives. Brown eyes, wavy hair, and so on. Note that there are more abstract nouns we might need to know as well. For example, we have the words height and weight. We mostly talk about these using adjectives such as tall or short, fat or thin, but we might need to know the nouns as well. Of course, people are not only defined by their physical attributes. There are other useful nouns that can be used to describe a person. For example, we might talk about their voice. A person might have a booming voice or a commanding voice. Likewise, we might want to talk about someone's qualities. That might involve mentioning their intelligence or intellect, their creativity, their leadership abilities, their sense of humor, and so on. Let's now look at some adjectives. If you're going to describe a person, you'll certainly need to know some of these. Here are some very common adjectives for describing people's appearance. I bet you already know most of these, right? What about these ones? They're a bit less common. Of course, the important thing is that your words are accurate in terms of their meaning. These have quite specific meanings. A lanky person is both tall and thin. Someone stocky is pretty much the opposite, being short and perhaps a little wide in the shoulders. Just make sure that the words you use to describe someone's physical appearance are appropriate. It's easy to offend people or hurt people's feelings when talking about this sort of stuff. Now let's look at how to describe personalities, because this is actually more interesting and arguably more important. Here are some basic words. Again, you probably know most of these, right? There's nothing wrong with using these words. We could say, for example, he's a funny man. However, is that really as descriptive as we can be? How about this? That's much better. This is the sort of thing that a novelist might write. You don't need to be able to do it that well, but you can see a range of options we have for describing someone. Let's now look at some more useful words. These again have specific meanings, and using them correctly can allow you to talk with a high degree of accuracy. An affectionate person, for example, is someone who is quite loving and open, willing to show tenderness to others. A charismatic person is someone to whom others are drawn because of their appealing personality. Words like these, when used correctly, can be incredibly effective for giving vivid descriptions of people. Again, keep in mind that some of these could be offensive if used wrongly. Maybe you want to describe someone in negative terms. That's fine in certain situations, but you don't want to do it by accident. Here we can see how certain words have positive or negative connotations. Obviously, no one wants to be called ugly, whether it's true or not. We've already seen briefly that adjectives can be placed before nouns to give more detailed descriptions. Let's say you wanted to describe this man. You wouldn't just say he had eyes and hair, you'd say he had blue eyes and brown hair. We can go much further, mixing together lots of adjectives and nouns to give vivid descriptions. For example, this man has brown skin with black hair and a thick dark beard. We can mix in personality adjectives too. If we know him, we could say he's an affable character, enthusiastic and gregarious. Let's look at a few more examples. My brother is a really outgoing and friendly person who's always the life of a party. He's talkative but knows how to listen too. People like him because he's so charismatic, but I don't think he's got a trace of arrogance and he always puts others first. I met a really interesting man last week. He was really mysterious, actually. He spoke in an unusual way and always alluded to things but never fully explained them. I don't mean he was dishonest or deceptive, but he seemed reluctant to talk about himself. People like that are fascinating, and it always makes me wonder what their life is really like. My teacher is a brilliant woman. She's utterly dedicated to her students and will stop at nothing to help them achieve their learning goals. She's got a kindly face too, and I think most people look at her and are immediately put at ease. There's just something in her eyes that tells you she's trustworthy and decent person. By the way, you might like this video I made some years ago about describing a famous person. It gives more information about how we can describe people effectively. Now, let's do some practice. Look at this person. How would you describe him? Pause the video for a moment and think of some good words and phrases. If you have time, maybe you can write a description in the comments below. I'll try to check people's answers and give them feedback. Now, here's what I would say. The man has light skin, dark, slicked back hair, and a beard. He's extroverted and confident, oozing charisma. He dresses for success and tries to act enthusiastic all the time. Well, that's just one interpretation based upon what I guessed from this picture. What do you think? When it comes to describing people, we can talk about their physical appearance or their personality. In fact, it's often good to mix both of them together. We should aim for accuracy above all, but we should also try to make sure that our words are appropriate so that we don't cause unintended offense. Try to push yourself to produce interesting descriptions that are vivid and avoid vague and boring language. Mix adjectives and nouns freely to put an image clearly in someone else's mind. If you can do that, then you'll be able to speak and write far more effectively in English.